Good afternoon, everyone. My name is Eric Giltner, and I work for the Small Business Administration. And it's my pleasure to be asked to serve as a facilitator for this program. And I really appreciate the Grand Forks Chamber of putting this together. And this is today, we're with the COVID Business Response Resources. And so we want to be able to give everybody a good understanding of what's available. Today, we're going to be talking about the financial resources available for the residents in the state of Minnesota. And here's our sponsors. It's the Chamber, Grand Forks, East Grand Forks Region Economic Development Corporation, the City of Grand Forks, my friends at the Red River Regional Council in Grafton, the North Dakota Department of Commerce, and the U.S. Small Business Administration. Couple of things as we go in here. Here's our agenda for today. I'm going to start it off with our introductions and some information on unpacking the federal programs. We have a lender perspective today from Ty Zeltinger. He's with the Bank of North Dakota and has experience as a commercial lender. And then next we have Minnesota State Resources with the Small Business Development Center with Christine Anderson, and we hope to have Kerry Hull join us.
Hi.
You're there, okay. And she's going to talk about some of the programs that the DEED has, which is the Department of Employment and Economic Development. But first off, some rules and regulations, right? We always got to have that. So your phone will be muted during the presentation, and it just works so much better that way. What we're going to ask you to do is use the chat button, which is at the bottom of your screen. If you roll your mouse down, it'll appear, and you can see that chat button and click on it, and then you can type in a particular question. And if you have a question for one of the panelists, why don't you just put that person's name there so I can direct that question to them. So I think that covers our rules. Appreciate Jamie at HB Sound and Light for kind of hosting and managing this. He's doing a great job keeping us all on track. So let's start with our introductions, and then I'll get into my part after a little bit. So let's start with Ty Zeltinger, please.
Hi, thanks, Eric. Ty Zeltinger, Bank of North Dakota. I do commercial and ag lending. Work with pretty much all financial institutions across the state of North Dakota. And also we have some deals that we partner with banks in Minnesota. Really, the whole purpose for us is anything that provides a benefit to a North Dakota company or a company that has North Dakota ownership. So here for any kind of questions that you would have on the banking side or any financial resources questions. Thanks, Eric.
Very good. Christine.
Hi, Eric. Thank you for inviting me on this webinar today. My name is Christine Anderson. I work with the Minnesota Small Business Development Center servicing Northwest Minnesota, the 12 counties in Northwest. My office is a satellite office. I'm on the University of Minnesota Crookston campus, and our regional office is in Bemidji. So we work with businesses from I have an idea to expansion to been there, done that, and I'm ready to retire. Right now, we're mostly working with the loan packaging for the funding.
Very good, thank you. And Kerry?
Good afternoon. I'm Kerry Hull with the Department of Employment and Economic Development from Minnesota. I wear a couple of hats. One is I'm the Northwest Regional Business Development Manager. And the other hat, so that I work with companies, typically manufacturers and high-tech companies that are growing or expanding in the state, in my region, and then also the state, because I work with, I also am the director of Minnesota Business First Up, which is a 9-partner agency group that collaborates and helps companies get through permitting, feedstock information, whatever they need from 9 agencies, which doesn't fit for right now. So I will leave that over there. But okay. I'm in Bemidji.
All right. Thank you, Kari.
Thank you
for getting your name wrong there. I should know better.
Oh, that's okay.
Yes. Okay. So I'm going to start it off, and I've got a lot of material. We're going to go through it pretty quickly, but if anybody wants a copy of these, they can, they can get the information from me. Just, I think my name has got to be on the list there. It's my name with dot between the Eric and the Giltner at sba.gov. So the very first one I want to talk about is SBA's roles in a disaster. And basically right now we're in an economic injury disaster declaration for the states of Minnesota and North Dakota. So basically if your business has been impacted by the COVID-19 incident, you are eligible for these disasters. And so these are low interest loans. Part of it is going to be forgiven, and we'll talk about that. Let's just go on to the next slide then, please. This is the current situation for the what we call the economic injury disaster loan. We call them the EIDL loan. Right now, the first thing a person will encounter is it's a loan advance, and it can be up to $10,000. Now, I have found out that just a couple days ago, many people have applied for these. It is going to be advanced up to $10,000 per employee, which is a little bit new information. A lot of people thought that it was $10,000 for every business. And then I've got the strike out there because on the website when you apply, it still says that the funds will be made available within 3 days of successful application. Well, that hasn't happened. They have been withholding the funds for some particular reason. They're trying to fix a glitch in the process of getting the money to all of the applicants. So just if you've got a loan application out there, bear with me. I do want to say that there was another glitch initially. And so if you applied as a business and you actually uploaded files, that needs to be redone. If you went on to the new portal, it's just answering questions and then hitting submit. So if you actually uploaded information, you'll need to go back in there. Once this is all done and settled out, then they're going to re-contact you and say, do you need more money? Maybe you're a business that has had a lot of inventory got lost and you need to replace that so you can work towards the next year. So you could get a larger loan up to $2 million. And this could be 3.75% for up to 30 years. It's to help that business kind of overcome the losses that they've incurred. So there's all kinds of people with different kinds of losses. I've had businesses whose job it is to hold conferences. They've paid for a lot of advertising. They paid for room blocks and all of this, and all of a sudden it's canceled. And so they've lost that money. What they're trying to do is get a disaster loan to give them working capital so that they can continue on in the future. Next slide, please. It's $1,000 per employee, and that's all I know. There's a question there from someone, and so I've just heard that it's $1,000 for each employee up to $10,000. The other program that's SBA is offering right now is the Paycheck Protection Program. They have allocated $349 billion towards job retention and certain other expenses. The whole idea is for those employees who have been laid off because of the coronavirus disaster. And so what we're trying to do is get money to those folks so that they can hire their, I'm going to say hire, but pay their employees, even if they're not coming into work, because if you're a restaurant, you're closed, you can't open. And so this is going to be open for people to qualify for up to $10 million. This is going to be determined by your average payroll for the last year. And there's different years people are looking at because they really don't define it. But we just want to get an average monthly payroll so that you'll get 8 weeks of that plus an additional 25%. That 25% is to be used for such things such as rent, utilities, and interest on mortgages, so that you at least have a place to come back to when we're given the green light to go ahead. If you do not use up all of this dollars that you've been allocated, especially the salary part, that is going to be turned into a loan. And that will be a loan that will be deferred for 6 months. And it will be a 2-year loan at 1%. And that was another change that we had in the program. It was at 0.5%, now it's at 1%. If you maintain your workforce, meaning that you pay all those workers that you had prior to the 15th of February, you will, SBA will forgive the portion of loan proceeds. Let's go to the next slide, please. Who can apply? And this is the actual language that's in there. So it's anybody with less than 500 employees. This includes sole proprietorships and independent contractors and self-employed persons. It also includes some private nonprofit organizations. And there's a couple of that are excluded, so that we have to be careful there. And then also some veterans organizations that are affected by the coronavirus, COVID-19. Also, business in certain industries may have more than 500 employees if they meet the SBA size standards. All of this information is on the SBA website, which is sba.gov. Small businesses in the hospitality and food industry with more than one location could also be eligible at the store and location level. So if you've got, let's say, 5 restaurants in 5 different cities, normally we might bunch them all together and you might not be meet our size standards. We're doing that so that you can actually treat those as a standalone. Same like if you had a hotel, you could do that as well. Next slide, please. How to apply? You can apply for the Paycheck Protection Program through any existing 7A lender or federally insured credit union and Farm Credit System institution that is participating. We have other lenders. We're trying to get everybody on board as quickly as we can. And so I just ask that you consult with your local lender to see if it's participating. And our lenders began processing loan applications on April 3rd, which is last Friday. Next slide, please. How to apply. I wish I would have made that, that website bigger. Make sure you go to sba.gov, G-O-V. When you go there, you can apply for the EIDL Advance that's applied online, and just follow the clicks, you know, information on the disaster loan programs, and you'll have to go through several pages, but you'll find that I've got the icons they use on the website to the right. For the Paycheck Protection Program, you'll find the icon where you can download the application, and then you bring that application to the SBA lender and proceed from there. The Minnesota District Office of SBA is in Minneapolis, and that's their address and their phone number there. So if you're a Minnesota business, you should really be contacting them for questions about the program and how it affects you. Next slide, please. With that, we'll have time to get some questions from folks, but I'd like to introduce Ty to talk about some of the things, his experiences as a commercial lender, and also what the Bank of North Dakota is doing for Minnesota businesses.
Thanks, Eric. So just to go back on what we do. So again, working with North Dakota banks and credit unions, and a lot of our, so if you're a Minnesota financial institution and you're working with a company that does business in North Dakota, there might be some options with us for that. But really just in the response to what all is happening, talk to your lender. That's kind of the advice that I'd want to give, that for businesses, make sure you're having conversations with your lender, making sure that you're letting them know what you're experiencing, what your needs are. They will have the best solutions and the best opportunities to work with you. What you can do is plan for the next 3 to 6 months. Again, we don't know how long this is going to, this slowdown is going to be taking place. So plan for the next 3 to 6 months. When you go speak to your lender, it's very beneficial if you come with all of your material that's needed. So if you're looking for help with payroll, make sure you have your pay receipts and all of your records for the last 12 months, employee records for how many employees you have, just so you can have an accurate feel for what you should be requesting. But talk to your lender, and again, I know it's hard for you not to panic in situations like this, but try not to panic, and advance on all your lines just because you don't think the liquidity is going to be there going forward. There's plenty of money out there, and we should be able to handle everything, whether through the SBA or your local institution. Anything else?
Let me ask you this, Ty. One of the things of the Paycheck Protection Program is for our lenders to make a decision as to whether an applicant is viable as of February 15th. And so for a lender to make that decision, how important it is for them to have accurate records from the applicant.
Yeah, absolutely. It's very important. And that's kind of how the credit decisions are made is what was your, what are your projections for 2020, or what were your projections for 2020? Obviously, everybody's projections are kind of shot now with what's been happening, but what was your financial history and your performance history? It makes it easier if you have all of that with you, so they can take a look and see that when you do come and request it, that not only are you able to pay back whatever it is that would turn out to be a permanent turned out loan, but yeah, having the financial accuracy in your reporting and everything would be very beneficial to speed the process along.
Okay. I got a couple questions about the EIDL advance loan, and I just want to clear that up. The way they're going to disperse it is it's up to $10,000, and it's $1,000 per employee. They did not specify if it's a part-time or a full-time. So one of our measures for the size, that 500 employees, that includes both part-time and full-time. So I'm guessing that if you have 3 part-time and 1 full-time, you've got 4 employees, and you'd be eligible for up to $1,000. The other question is that the idle loan advance, is it meant to be used with the regular one? You can actually, yes, you can do both. In the question, can you do one without the other? So I would recommend that people go ahead and get the advance if they qualify for it, because that's the part that's going to be forgiven. You may not qualify for the PPP. And then when they come back to you later on, you can get a larger loan that could go as long as 30 years to help you get through this particular program. Couple other questions that have come in here. Let's see, is the owner considered an employee? If you are taking a salary, yes, you are considered an employee. So if you're the only one in your organization, you could get up to $1,000. And then the PPP loan, how long do you have to rehire employees? Well, you're getting money to pay them for 8 weeks. And that's going to be it. So, at least they're going to get some payment so they can continue living for 8 weeks. And I will also say that you as the borrower, we're going to forgive that as long as you pay them. We're not going to ask you as the borrower to put together any collateral or to guarantee the loan. It's going to be 100% guaranteed to the lenders by the SBA. Any clarification to the PP loan determination, for example, had not heard of plus 25%. I'll take a couple more questions and then I want to move on to our other panelists here. But the 25% is, as I mentioned, to cover rents, interest on mortgage, and some utilities. This is to keep the store open, to keep the freezers going, things like that, so that in 8 weeks when we come back, hopefully it'll be ready to go. And you also won't be finding yourself out on the curb because you couldn't pay the rent. So with that, I'll get to some of these questions after a bit, but Tyson, do you have anything to say about the lender applicant process and what to do with that?
Well, I mean, we're not specifically handling any SBA requests because we're kind of a correspondent bank, but I know that the lenders are working day and night really to get these through. Heard of some banks working overnight all weekend just to process some of the requests. So, I mean, they're working as hard as they can to meet the needs of what their borrowers will be needing. But yeah, start with your lender. They'll get you on the right track to where you need to go to get any sort of assistance that is provided by SBA or any other local institution.
Okay, thanks, Ty. So our next guest panelist is Christine Anderson, and she's with the Northwest Small Business Development Center out of Crookston. Go ahead, Christine.
Thanks again, Eric. I want to thank Eric, you and Tyson for everything you guys do. My clients and small businesses in Minnesota and North Dakota obviously I don't know what we'd do without what you guys do every day. So just a brief introduction of who I am again, because a lot of people have joined. I am a business consultant with the Sbdc out of, my office is at the University of Minnesota, Crookston. I work with the Northwest Minnesota Sbdc. Our regional office is in Bemidji, and we serve 12 counties in Northwest Minnesota. You know, during these times of COVID-19 and the uncertainty of what's next, the Sbdc is working with businesses in all sorts of different areas. That's not normal to what we normally, a little bit different than what we normally do, such as helping them with access to additional capital, loan packaging, marketing plan development for going forward, succession planning, and strategic planning. If you look at the chart, next slide. There we go. So on that slide, it tells you that pretty much the difference between what the Sbdc does and what the SBA does, because a lot of people believe that or think that the Sbdc has money, and we don't give loans out. We leave that to the SBA. So what we do is we conduct webinars on resources and strategies for the emergency loan and grant programs, business survival, starting a business. We do offer confidential, no-fee, one-on-one assistance in applying for these financing packages, survival strategies, financial management, marketing, unwinding a business. We will help to connect you to the resources that will help your business and employees, and will help you to find the questions of today. Whereas the SBA, they offer the emergency loans and forgivable loan programs, the Paycheck protection program, all the different programs that we're talking about, in addition to the 7A, the 504, the Express Community. You can see those listed there. I get tongue-tied when I talk about all of them. So the SBA actually has the funding, and then they conduct webinars similar to this that will help you with accessing capital and government contracting. Next slide, please. What the Sbdc does not do, I like it, it's nice and short because we can do more things. We don't provide the funding, like I said, no loans, no grants, no equity investments. We also do not evaluate your funding request or decide on the amount of funding you'll receive, as compared to what the SBA does not do. They don't provide the individual assistance in applying for financing, and they don't provide individual business and management advice. So the Sbdc is working with the SBA and other partners on the COVID-19 pandemic. We're just one of the resource partners. We work with the Women's Business Centers, SCORE, Veterans Business Outreach Centers, and together we all help to provide the guidance and training to America's businesses and communities during this time of crisis and beyond. You'll see on the bottom is my contact information, but I just have a couple little other short things. I want to talk to you about some of the things I'm seeing out and about, and I'm sure most of you can relate to that. On the upside and the exciting side, I'm currently working with 7 individuals on new businesses. This is not stopping people from wanting to start new businesses. I like that. It's good to hear. A couple we're going to start this summer, but they're putting that off till later fall, maybe towards the end of the year. But that's a good thing, because we're going to be able to shift some things up to help them be even more successful. The rest of them were planned to start at the end of 2020 or into 2021. So that's good. An experience I had that I think you guys can all relate to, 3 weeks ago, I got an email from a client, and on the subject line it said, "What do I do now?" And I tell you what, it about broke my heart, because he was the first one I got an email from that was experiencing this. He typically brought in $5,000 to $15,000 a week in sales revenue. That week he had brought in $48. Totally devastating, but you know what? We talked through it, talked about what other businesses were experiencing or going to experience, and we talked about the SBA funding, the deed funding, along with regional and local funding programs that are out there, along with talking to his bank as well. And you know what? Now we're building a plan for recovery. And that's what I talk to a lot of my clients about, is building that plan for recovery. And because they're going to come back, we're going to make plans for new products, new services, new marketing strategies, and building a new and better financial plan that'll help them to come back bigger or better and stronger than they were before. And then just one last thing, I read it about a week ago, and it's kind of my new mantra, is it says, position yourself for recovery. We will recover, but nothing will ever be the same. So we need to start thinking ahead. It's easy to get stuck where we are because it's really scary, and we don't know where we are right now or how long we're going to be here. But what I try to do, and what my other consultants try to do, is plan for what's coming up. So questions?
Well, very good, Christine. If we'll take questions as we go along, and we'll get back to you. And so right now, I'd like to let Kari reintroduce herself and talk about some of the programs that you have available in Minnesota.
Thank you for the deck. I appreciate that. I'm Kerry Hull, and I live in Bemidji. Just to let you guys all know, my husband and I are also small business owners, and so he has been racing for the last couple of weeks, going through the same process that so many of you all will be going through or are going through. So I can feel the situations you guys are in. With that, I want to talk about a few things from the state of Minnesota. And I know we have North Dakota folks on. And so what I'll be talking about, though, is what we have in Minnesota through my office, which is, if you go online, it's mn.deed.gov. Be sure what you're looking at for websites have gov at the end. There's a lot of scams going on, and you want to really take care of looking at where you're really getting your information from. So when you go to our website, if you haven't already, I want you to sign up for our newsletter. That will keep you up to date on what is going on in our office. We have some new things going on all the time. We too are drinking out of a fire hose, and still are moving forward with our applications as well. We have a new guide that I want you to all to go see, because it really helps you follow through with what you need to do. And if you click, when you go on our website, you'll see the coronavirus. There's information on unemployment, and then for businesses. And I'm going to talk about the businesses first, and then I'll go and I'll just touch on unemployment. That's not my area, but I have a little bit that I want to share with you. When you go on our website under coronavirus, and even on the right-hand side, you're going to see what's called a guide for small businesses who need help. And so when you go into that, it's going to show what Eric was talking about, the SBA programs, all the way through to answer a lot of your questions, click on websites, and just is a really nice guide to help it make it a bit more seamless for everyone. Well, you go ahead and apply for the Sbdcs or SBA. See, I'm even getting it confused. And versus deed, we have two programs that are here to help small businesses. Our first one out of the chute is one called the Small Business Emergency Loan. And that small business emergency loan ranges from $2,500 to $35,000. And of course, it's going to be based on the firm's economic injury and the financial need. It's interest-free, and it'll be paid back for over 5 years, but the first payment is deferred for 6 months. And then there is some partial forgiveness available. So that's awfully nice too. And it's provided to only Minnesota-based businesses. And so if a business in Minnesota is a parent company but has many subsidiaries or branches throughout the state, only one application can come in. So that's kind of the terms of the loan. And if you've listened to Governor Walz at all with his executive order 2004 and 2008, it was his emergency declaration in order to be eligible for a small business emergency loan, and that'll be on our guide. A business must be able to demonstrate that it was directly or adversely affected by the conditions that precipitated the emergency declaration. And so it does show that eligible businesses include restaurants, food courts, coffee houses, and other places of public accommodation who offer food and beverages, bars, taverns, brew pubs, breweries, microbreweries, wineries. It goes on, the list is quite long. Hookah bars, cigar bars, vaping lounges are even in this. Theaters, cinemas, indoor and outdoor performance venues, museums, fitness centers, recreation centers, salons, anything with a salon in it, amusement parks. And so it's wide. It's wider than we're used to in our state in supporting companies through these kinds of efforts. The business must be current on financial obligations as of March 1st, 2020. And be an existing small business, have operated in Minnesota long enough to determine financial viability, be willing to provide some collateral or personal guarantee for at least 20% of the loan, be unable to qualify for a standard loan through a bank, credit union, or nonprofit lending organization, and pay off the emergency loan if financing is received subsequent to loan approval. When you go into the guide, again, back to the guide, one of the first things it will say is to also check with your insurance company and your banker, and then the rest of these programs. So I think that's, I'm going to just talk about loans that cannot be provided to businesses, and then I'm going to move on to the next loan. Loans cannot be provided to businesses that derive income from passive investments without operational ties to an operating business, primarily generate income from gambling activities, generates any part of its income from adult-oriented activities, have no current or historical financial statements. So that would not be available to, those businesses would not be able to apply for a loan. What I want to tell you is that in Minnesota, in Northwest Minnesota, there are lenders. When you go into that program, the Small Business Emergency Loan Program, there's a tab that says apply. And there'll be a pre-app, and then you'll work with an approved lender, which in Northwest Minnesota is the Northwest Minnesota Foundation. So they will work with you to work through the application process, along with maybe Christine that could help package it, because that becomes kind of a trick. And so then they approve the loans and they go into our office then for final approval. I can't tell you when the money will be released yet, but I know the approval process also started last Friday, and the first approvals were out over the weekend. So the second program I want to talk to you about is through your banker only, through your lenders only, but it is a state program. So it's contact your banker. This one is called the Minnesota Small Business Loan Guarantee Program. This program, like I said, is a guaranteed program. Our state legislator allocated $10 million to the program, which can be used to provide guaranteed for loans throughout the state. This guarantee program provides 80% up to a maximum of $200,000. The way this one works, when we enroll a loan, we set aside funds to cover the guarantee in a pool reserve funds. That allows us to just set aside a percentage of the guarantee amount rather than the whole amount, and then stretches the program further. So if a loan ends up to default, it's covered by the funds in the pool. But as I was saying, these loans are not allowed, don't come from us at all. The lenders, the bankers that apply to our office, which is in the process of being done now, will be doing their own approval and using all of their own processes. So then they'll be submitting loans to us to receive a guarantee prior to the loan closing. If they close on a loan, it must be contingent upon receiving guarantee approval from our office. So we're just here to provide that 80% guarantee. So this can be used for machinery or equipment purchases, maintenance or repair, expenses related to moving into or within Minnesota, working capital, when the working capital is secured by a fixed asset. The funds can also be used exclusively for Minnesota operations, or must be used. The loan funds do not have to be matched by other financing, and there are no job or wage goal requirements. So we do have fact sheets or or question and answers for both the small business loan guarantee program, which I just talked to you about. We have another fact sheet for the small business emergency loan program, which goes through your regional lenders, the Northwest Minnesota Foundation. And so those are the two programs that the state has. The other thing that I want to just mention is our unemployment office is so busy, just like everyone is. We took in more apps in one day than we took in all year last year. And so we're asking people to apply online. We're asking people to look at when they should apply. It's based on the last digit of your social security number for Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, and Friday. It's for anyone. What I really like is it's our website for our unemployment's laid out very well. There's a video library. There's answers to what can affect my benefits. There's employer information, and there's some information on scams. So really our website's in very, very good shape right now. Again, if you go on mn.deed.gov, it'll take you right there. I think that's all I have to say. Again, sign up for our newsletter. I think you might find it very interesting to keep tabs even when this emergency is over. And as Christine said, it will pass. It's just things are going to be different, and we don't know what that means yet. So you guys stay strong.
Very good, thank you. I've got a couple of questions, and I think I have some answers for that. How about that one? One person, he asked about restaurants, how can we supplement tipped employee wages? Well, this is the verbiage that's in the act right here. Payroll consists of compensation to employees, and the employee has to have a principal place of residence in the United States. Okay, this is in the form of salary, wages, commissions, or similar compensation, cash, tips, or the equivalent. And the cash tips are based on employer records of past tips, or in the absence of such records, a reasonable, good faith employer estimate of such tips. Okay, and also there's some payment for vacations, parental, family, medical, sick leave, all of that stuff can be put into there. And there's a couple other questions here. And then I've got one for Kari. Somebody has asked about, as far as the dispersal of the funding for the employees. When do we pay them? Do we start them from 2 weeks ago or whatever? I have been told that when the lenders start to disperse those loans, they'll have some guidelines for it. I guess the best answer I've been giving is that you're going to be paying them for 8 weeks. So, and somebody asked about going on unemployment. what do they do now? Well, if they're on unemployment and you get the program, they'll have to go off unemployment. If after the end of 8 weeks, we're still not back where we need to be, they will have the opportunity to go back on unemployment. I have a question for Kari. What is the interest rate on the bank loans from Minnesota?
On the small business emerging loan that you would get through, that would be the 2,500 to 35,000. There's no interest. On the new one that's coming out, I am not sure, but I don't think it would be much if there's any at all. But I'll check on that. Who should I get back to? Should I get back to?
You can send, I'll ask the person who asked the question to send me an email.
Okay, perfect.
And his initials are RV. I hope you heard that. And
Okay.
then I'll get that to you. Okay, again, we've heard about, when
It might be up to the lender, but
Yeah.
I can't say that for sure.
Okay. I haven't seen any, the question again is when do the 8 weeks start? And I haven't seen any. My personal opinion is that as long as they get 8 weeks of a paycheck, whether you start it today or if you backdate it, they're only going to get 8 weeks. And I've also had lenders say, well, can I ask them to come in and do some things even though we're closed? And, certainly I would say, yes, you can ask them to come in, but make sure that you are practicing safety in the workplace. So, make sure that there's some social distancing, and if you're going to have people working together. I know one business was going to have a paint party and they're going to redo their whole place. Well, that's fine. Just make sure that everybody is safe. Let's see some of these other questions. Christine or Ty, do you have anything you'd like to add while we're reading some questions here and looking at?
Yeah, I'll add something, Eric. A lot of the things that there are, a lot of the requests that we've been seeing since we are a correspondent bank, it does happen from the lead side, but requests for either 3 months or 6 months interest only, or even full payment deferrals for 3 to 6 months. So businesses out there, again, talking to your lenders, they'll provide some options for you that will help you try to weather what's going on here, or in the meantime, kind of help out until you can get some SBA assistance funding.
Okay. Question that I got was on the PPP, the 3P loan, on the 25% to be used on the extras. They want to know, is that 25% of the total loan or the amount you used? For forgiveness, you're going to have to show that the money was spent in the areas that we've set it. So you might get a loan for more than you actually spent. And whatever is not forgiven, you can either return or you can accept the terms of the loan, which is that 1% loan that's deferred for 6 months. Payments, the interest is still accruing, and then it's going to be it's a 2-year loan. So your payments will be made on, whatever a regular 2-year loan would be at 1% for the amount that you get. And that's the amount that's not forgiven. I've had some people ask about nonprofits and especially religious organizations such as churches. Churches can apply. There is a link that outlines, what can and cannot be done for churches. And, that's a long 3 or 4 page discussion. So if anybody, is worried about their church and wondering what can be done, they can actually apply for that. And so they can go to the SBA.gov website. And I do want to reiterate what Kari said, that go to a .gov website, because I know that SBA.com is a big scam. They just want to sell you everything that you can get for free on our website, and some other ones aren't all that good anyways. Make sure that you visit with the Sbdc to get assistance. They are there to help you. I know that I was going to ask Christine, how many Sbdc staffers do you have available in the northwest corner of the state?
Sure. So we have, I'd say there's probably 6 or 7 of us over here. I'm the only one that's based out of here, but the other ones, right now we're all working remotely. So the ones that are in the Bemidji area, and they travel over here all the time anyways.
Okay.
But I just want to let people know too that you don't need to be a client to call me and ask me a question. I get calls every day from businesses who just don't know where to go or who to ask. And I'm totally, able and willing to answer questions, without them actually signing up to be a client as well.
Yeah, and it sounds like Kari's FAQ. Do you want to talk about that?
Yeah, I did find, and on the question about the interest for the guarantee program, and as I mentioned and thought it would be, the lender determines the terms of the collateral requirement for the loans, not our office.
Okay. I'm looking for some more chat questions. If there are none.
Eric, I have one question for you.
Okay, sure.
If you run a farming operation, does that qualify for any sort of SBA assistance or paycheck protection assistance if you have employees on the farm?
We have been getting that question a lot, and right now the answer is still no, but we have run it up the chain of command, so to speak, to see if that can be answered. They are considering it, but so far they have not said yes. And as of right now, our SBA lending guidelines exclude agricultural organizations. A company that sells stuff to a farmer is certainly eligible. Another question came: can a business apply for both the PPP and the EIDL? Yes, there is one thing. If you were to get an EIDL loan of, I'll just say $10,000, and that was forgiven, that is going to be deducted from the forgivable part of your PPP loan. They also cannot use those monies for the same thing. They have to be applied to different things. And so for the EIDL loan, that can be used to defray other expenses that are not included in rent or utilities. Let's say that you're a restaurant and you had $10,000 worth of inventory go bad because you had to shut down. That can be used to help replace that when you get started. So the dollars cannot be used for the same purposes, and you can't get both, so that if you get $10,000 forgiven on EIDL loans, that $10,000 will be deducted from your forgivable amount on the 3P loan. Some people have said have not had any reply and communication from SBA regarding the EIDL program. Okay, the one thing you should have gotten is an email when you hit submit. There should have been something that came from them with a number that said, we will be in contact later. I know that they held up dispersing the EIDL advances to take care of some kind of an issue with the program. So they said they were, on Monday morning, they said they had hoped to start doing those distributions. I have not heard those. So I'm asking people to be patient. There is a phone number that is on the website, and I had it here earlier. There we go. This phone number is 1-800, and I'm looking up at my top screen if you're wondering what's going on, 1-800-659-2955. There is an email, disaster customer service, all one, disaster customer service at sba.gov. Let's see another question. On PPP loan insurance premiums that are forgiven, is this employer covered portion or total premium? You know what? I'm not sure of that answer, so I'm not going to speculate. If you want to contact me, give me a call. I'm at 701-746-5160. Finally, another question, if the use of funds is different for the PPP and the EIDL, are they both forgiven? No, they're still going to take the one portion off. They're still going to take the EIDL funds and deduct that from the other one. Andy Conlon, thank you. Somebody has posted that number for the disaster customer service. Anything else out there that people want to add? Our panelists? If not, again, I want to thank the Chamber of Commerce for Grand Forks, East Grand Forks for arranging and getting all of our wonderful panelists. I appreciate everybody's knowledge and insight, and I wish everybody to stay safe and stay well and have a great day.